everyone.
Okay.
We're ready to get started. Welcome to the City of Indian Rocks Beach regular City Commission meeting. This is Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If you would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Lauren, would you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Bigelow?
Present.
Commissioner Bond?
Here.
Commissioner Lyons?
Here.
Vice Mayor Commissioner Wilson?
Present.
Mayor Commissioner Houseburn?
Here. We'll start with the presentations. I'd like to hear the report of the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office.
Good evening. I'm Corporal Griffin from Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. I have the October 2024 crime report. Overall, there were no major incidents in October. And for the year-to-date totals, crime is down significantly from last year, with the exception of burglaries, which is a post-storm-related problem. If anybody has any questions about this, I can answer for you.
Does anybody have any questions?
What kind of burglaries are most common?
People that are stealing stuff from houses without power that nobody's around.
But like contents or pipes or?
A lot of it's like tools and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you.
Stuff that's being left unsecured.
Do you have any advice for homeowners, maybe about securing their belongings?
It's an unfortunate situation. A lot of people can't secure their stuff, and that's when they're getting targeted. There's not a whole lot they can do. Fortunately, we're out here doing extra patrols. I would just ask if anybody sees anything, or anybody that doesn't belong in the neighborhood, just call us. We'd rather come out with you than somebody do something.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Okay.
Next is the report of the Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue District. Fire Chief here tonight.
They were raced into
Probably not
7th
after what's in the paper,
access
though.
Okay. Okay. They're off doing the rescue. Next, we'll hear the report of the post-Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton recovery update.
Good evening. I'll kick this off. Friday, we mailed out a mailer to all property owners that basically summarizes the different permitting options. That includes the pre-approval of Hetty, our city planner. There's the city clerk, I believe, handed out copies of that. It's also located on our website. There's a good bit of resources available on the city's website under hurricane resources. And I also want to commend, if you come to City Hall right now, we're located in 3 beautiful temporary modular buildings. And the one out front is referred to as modular building or trailer number 1. And the fine folks up there are the people that are dealing primarily and providing information for walk-in residents or property owners on the status of permits and the process that they go through. So in addition to the mailer and the variety of information on the website, the folks up at the front building at City Hall are doing a good job of providing information. Last week, we received some information about a mitigation program that's going to be offered through the state. We'll be putting that out to the public, and we're going to attempt to schedule like a town hall type meeting, most likely here or either at Bel Air Beach, where FEMA and the Florida Department of Environmental Management will be there to explain what the mitigation program is. And basically there's 3 or 4 different programs. They have property owners have to front the money, and there's a way that they can be reimbursed for a percentage of the money. So that'll be coming through. The City of Bel Air Beach hosted a meeting with the FEMA folks last week, and I think it was pretty well attended, but the information I got from the city manager was that at that point there were a lot of questions that the FEMA representatives could not answer. So I'm trying to give them a little time so they've got their ducks in a row. But we'll be Tomorrow, we'll put out the information about the mitigation program in the different categories, and then we'll try to follow up with a citywide meeting. Tonight, I'd like to, Dean Sharman will give a report about, from Public Works, about damage, debris, et cetera. Dan Carpenter will give an update about the financial impact, where all that stands. And then Craig and Hetty at Civil Service will talk about the permitting and substantial damage, non-substantial process. So I'll call Dean first.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The city's debris management program commenced on October 7th, 2024, and final completion was achieved on November 15th, 2024. After that date, any debris or construction materials are the responsibility for the homeowner and or their contractor to dispose of it accordingly. Debris management it's a multifaceted program, and we were fortunate enough to utilize 3 different sites to dispose of our debris. One of them was the state site at the Pinellas County landfill, where we were allowed to go there and dispose of that on a continued basis until they closed it down, and that was a one and done process. We also utilized a local vendor for a one and done process, which was real close to us. It's called Angela's Recycling on Starkey Road. And then we had our final debris management site. It's called a DMS, and where we stored a bunch of the debris till we can reduce it and then take it to the final grave site. And to date, we have over 8,400 cubic yards that's been sent from the DMS to the final grave site. We have a little bit more to go, approximately 11,000 cubic yards to do that, but we're taking it to Tampa, Dover, and David City. I previously indicated to you that the debris management is a daunting and monumental task, and we really appreciate everybody's patience and understanding when we got through this process. So thank you very much. Continuing on for debris, household chemical waste. Pinellas County held an event on Saturday, November 23rd, over at the Bel Air Causeway, to have residents safely dispose of paint, chemicals, and stuff like that. If you didn't have a chance to go there, or you have more, that you can still utilize the Pinellas County Household Hazardous Waste Center, and they're open Tuesday through Friday, and they're open the first and third Saturdays. So you can take your stuff out there for free. And they take automotive products and lawn chemicals and household chemicals and stuff like that.
And where is that?
That's going to be out at 2855 109th Avenue North in St. Pete. It's just south of the waste energy plant, right off of 275 out there. But it's free to the public. We ask that you don't drop it off at our recycle centers, because we can't get rid of it. We have to pay for it. So it's easier if you guys just take it out there. Obviously, there's stuff they're not going to take, like they're not going to take ammunition, they're not going to take propane canisters and stuff like that. They won't take appliances and stuff like that. Moving forward with some of our debris, our beach accesses, to date, the city's reopened 23 beach accesses. They've been cleaned and the debris has been removed from 1st Avenue to 26th Avenue. The remaining beach accesses, we got to do a little more work, and they'll be open on a segmented basis. We got to build a drive over and some steps and stuff like that. All city parks have been cleaned and reopened, with the exception of 2 locations: the Brown Park tennis courts and the Nature Reserve Boardwalk, which was closed prior to the storms, and then that was a boardwalk project. Some of the lighting in these parks is not operational this time. We're working to get that up and running as quick as we can. We understand there's a lot of street signage missing. We're taking an inventory of missing and damaged signs, and we should have that scheduled for replacement in the early portion of 2025. Last thing I'd like to speak with it is the recycling services. Our recycling resumed on Wednesday, December 4th, and residents are asked to not put anything in the blue container besides the recycling commodities, and your container should be put at the curb on Wednesdays for service. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Commissioner. Greg has asked me to give a brief update on the financial aspects of the city's recovery from the 2 hurricanes. And with that, I'd focus on two key items for the city. The financial end of what Dean was talking about, Mr. Sharman, the debris removal and the process and the procedure to request reimbursement for the city with FEMA. Working through the final numbers, as Dean said, some of the debris is still being moved around. We're still looking like the city will have in excess of just over $3 million worth of debris as we look at it today. We've asked for an advance through a FEMA process for some of that money, and that's been already worked through. And the second item, the large financial item of the city, probably no different than most everybody here in the audience tonight, including the commissioners, would be the insurance claim for the city building, facilities and other items that were insured. The city does have both flood insurance and what's called excess or catastrophic insurance. We have been working for the last 2 months with the insurance provider. The four main items there would be your City Hall Library complex, the Public Works complex. There's 26 beach accesses that fall underneath the insurance purview, and then of course a lot of the parks and the facilities or the property in the open within the parks. And similar to a residential insurance claim, that process will work the same for the city. We'll hopefully shortly get an advance based on details and information and photos provided. The second part of that process is where you get your actual cash value for items. And then finally, as we replace items and can provide detailed information on, source invoices and canceled checks, we can get the replacement cost or the difference when there is some between actual insurable value and what it costs to replace. So, and to summarize, the final item I'd want to say is we're in excess of about $3 million as well on the insurance claim. So in total, we're working 2 claims, one with FEMA, mostly for debris, and the second for insurance for city facilities and equipment and signage and all that kind of stuff. And we're sitting at about $6.2 million estimate for the 2 of those. And that's all I have.
Good evening, Craig Fuller with Civil Service Design Group. I've got a team working now on the pre-approval packages. So hopefully you've gotten the update from Greg. We've now worked a lot with the county, what they want, and they have a set requirement that we receive and basically pre-process as if we are the final permitting agency. We're not, but we have to make sure everything is checked and complete before it goes to them. So once you get that to us, and there's a lot of back and forth, and I'll give you the exact numbers in just a second, but once you get all that to us and once everything gets worked out, it's fairly quick, reportedly, to get through the county. There's 162 that have been pre-approved to date. Those include 114 that are under 12 inches or have a garage beneath it. But there's also 52 that are complete and 51 that are, the applications have been received, but we're pending some additional information. We're going back and forth. There's none that are sitting just idle. There's actually, these are yesterday's numbers. I know we've gotten, I think, 2 or 3 more we completed today. So we're actively working on these. For the SD determinations, although please be aware, don't hold back your applications because of these SDs. We met with FEMA today. The SDs are a requirement. We have to go through the process, but that doesn't mean you necessarily, it's like a prelim process. And if we can beat it with our actual final permits and real numbers of what it really costs to build back, they were happy with the process that we've developed for this. So I just want to reassure you of that. So we have 197 properties that have determinations. Of those, 134 were non-SD, 63 were SD. But please note there's a decent which is to say significantly damaged or not significantly damaged. It's just that 50% threshold. So of those, a number of them actually had under 12 inches of inundation inside. So their model is based on an outside. So if you had less water that came inside, it's a completely different number. Something I want to stress is that the new funding that that FEMA through the Department of Emergency Management has come out with, it has nothing to do with being SD. You can be significantly damaged or not significantly damaged. The funding that they're going to offer is because you were in a disaster area and because you were impacted. So I can't give you more information than what they've provided. I met with them a few weeks ago, and I knew this was coming, but they still have not announced the exact requirements. So I would hate to say what the 25 and 75% is. So it could be based on existing, or it could be based on build-back value. So I don't want to base it on that. So, but as far as for other metrics, some of the existing permits, 13 were for demolition only. One was for windows, one was for a roof, and one was for plumbing, but the remainder were a full build-back as it was type permit. I don't believe we have any, I'll call it new, but they wouldn't be necessarily through the same process, because if we know it's a significant improvement, it's kind of a different process. You're rebuilding completely.
I want to let you know that we, there are some issues with the ones I approved like a month ago, without the form that's on the website right now. So some of those got approved, and some are getting rejected. So basically, and those were not as detailed reviewed. So I have to, we're getting those kicked back, and we're going through the whole process with them too, because before the county was doing it. So we got to catch up on those too. So, it's kind of, but I think we finally have it down with what the county wants. So I'm sorry for a lot of frustration with that, but we're trying, and I think we finally have what they want and what will be acceptable. So, thank you.
And that's all, other than just, there's 4 forms. You think, in the letter, there's a link or an address where they are. There's one that's a pre-approval from us. The other is the county forms. And we're going to be reviewing your cost breakdown with an RS means type breakdown. So, and this is the key to this, even if you're building something back yourself, put what it would cost to really build it back, like if you were going to have a contractor do it. So that's how FEMA looks at it, and they will get audited. And just to, as a reference, and I think it's on the back there, it's something like $700,000 a year in insurance costs, plus all these millions of dollars and the 75-25, all of that would go away if FEMA decides that we are no longer meeting the CRS requirements. So that's why we have to meet all of these requirements. That's why we have to jump through so many hoops. But hopefully that kind of explains it.
And of course, after that letter went out, or I think we had reviewed it, and then Friday morning we had a meeting with the county, so now they want before pictures too. It wasn't just after, they want to see what it looked like before. So we can see what kind of flooring you had, what kind of cabinets you had, supposedly within your, seeing what you're proposing. So I think we have our process down, so you might get say, we need this, if we're submitting, so bear with us. And we're going to probably have to modify the website again, so.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah, are we doing questions?
We'll open up the floor later for questions.
Okay.
We're opening it later.
Are we complete?
Yep.
Thank you. I'm going to open up the floor now for public comment. Every speaker has a 3-minute limit. Any member of the audience may come forward, give their name and address, and state any comment or concern that they may have regarding any matter over which the City Commission has control, excluding agenda items. All statements made to the City Commission shall be made to the City Commission as a whole, not directed to any individual City Commission member. And no personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks shall be permitted. No speaker shall be interrupted, and no debate shall occur between the speaker and the City Commission. Who would like to speak? Hi, Diane.
Always have to be first.
Hi, Diane Daniel, 309 10th Avenue. Before my 3 minutes starts, are we having a Q&A with them afterwards? I'm confused.
Yeah. I think I heard yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna take down the questions and respond after everybody's.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much for sending a letter to all residents. It's a long time coming. I'm glad it happened. I wish that you would also send out an email form to all the short-term rental owners, since you already have a practice of sending emails to them about things like recycling. I think this would be really important. Even if they do get the letter, you have the email list. Someone mentioned at the last meeting that you all should be updating the website like every hour, which I think is maybe a little too much, but I really wish you would update it with metrics like we just heard, say every week or so, because people are really wanting to know this information, and it's so easy to do. It would also be nice if we can do Q&A at every meeting, great, but some kind of forum where we can actually really talk to people, not just FEMA, but our own people, and have question and answer, and have that tape as well. The one other thing I wanted to mention, and I'll try to address this in Q&A, is, when we did the Pledge of Allegiance, we talked about justice for all. I'm seeing so many short-term rentals already fixed up, already hosting guests. They're not permitted. I know one is substantially damaged at a high amount. People are talking about this everywhere, and I don't really understand what we're supposed to do about it. The only thing I saw in the letter is you may have to undo your work, but that's like saying if you speed, you might get a ticket. So I just really want to be able to address this with people and find a way to have justice for all in Indian Rocks. Thanks.
Thank you, Diane. Anyone else?
Letter to Agreement 301, Hidden Harbor Drive, Indian Rocks Beach. I think most of my concerns were answered in the presentation of this letter. The main purpose for us being here when we got the letter today was I couldn't believe the negativity of that letter, and the way it was sounded to me was more threatening than informative and supportive. So I guess my question is, and this is not a back and forth, and maybe it should be at some point, was this a requirement that you people felt it was because of FEMA requiring you to send that letter or not? And that's my question, because it seemed to me there was no reason to send that letter unless it was a requirement. Okay, and then some comments on the letter, 12 inches. I mean, come on, 12 inches? If you live anywhere within, half a mile of the beach, you got 12. I got 4 feet, so 12 inches is nothing. So that puts all of us under the onus of complying with that letter, which is, to me, all negative. So yeah, I guess the only question I'd leave you with, you can answer it, is if you felt there was a requirement to send that letter, or you did it on your own provision. I mean, those are my comments about the letter, but if you can answer that question, I'd like it.
Thank you. Bob?
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you, everybody. Bob Copeland, 447 20th Avenue. Thank you, everybody, for everything. It's no fun. I kind of have a couple comments that I really intend to be suggestions for maybe to help people with this process. Because I know it's a moving target for the administration and for the residents. So one thing was, a building official told me there's certain building cost calculator websites that are used as a quote gold standard. And if you were to use that to generate your rebuilding costs or your estimates, that you would then make it much easier for yourself, for the county, and for Hetty's people to not be nervous about people going skinny on their numbers. I know the name of one that they gave me to use. I don't really want to say it here, probably happy to pass them along. So my point is, if there's a building cost estimator website program that would be an acceptable tool, perhaps we could be advised of that. And that would perhaps help everybody with their process. It's nobody's fault, it's just all of our problems. All of us have the problem. The moving target, the changing rules, Eddie said, they just said you need to have pictures of all the prior storm. Even though you might have only had 2 inches of water and nothing changed. As a thought, and I've been thinking about this, because unlucky minor, very minor damage, very minor, little. Is it possible to get the county to give us a list of approved contractors that could go through our house and write the report that the county would accept, so we can avoid this problem of, did you take pictures before the storm? Did you have enough pictures? So if an owner could pay to hire an approved contractor to document the damage matches their repair application, maybe this would help the people, the county, and the city get through this stuff. So again, I know it's just tough. Those are things I've been thinking about, how to make it easier, not sit here and complain about it's not going fast enough for a person. So, and afterwards I have a question that maybe we'll answer. I didn't understand. If we justify that we have that minor damage, but they didn't come into our house, they being FEMA, and then they come back with a different valuation from an exterior inspection. I think she meant, Ms. Harmon mentioned that happened to somebody. How do we navigate this? You know, I mean, I'm not going to get into what I did for a career, but it's quick. Yes, ma'am, 3 minutes. But you understand what I'm asking, if we could discuss that.
Yes, thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes. Wrong night to have an edible, I guess, huh? Okay. All right. 3 minutes starts now. 23 years in town, and it's the first time this parade ever skipped our street. Our street, we needed the street parade. Who's in charge? Who is leading it?
Just because I'm recording it,
Oh.
we know who you are, but you can.
Scott Shapiro, 2032, 20th Avenue Parkway. Who is leading that? Whoever was leading this needs to be fired. It was unacceptable. I'd like to recognize those who volunteered and helped us in the last few months. We have some local folks, Jack Tenney and the Jew Squad. You guys have no idea how much they did. I saw it, I helped them with some stuff, they helped me with some stuff. Sarah Salt, she did an awful lot of stuff. She was amazing coordinating all of the relief efforts, organizing it. Jasmine, who is a victim herself and lives in town, she was volunteering, handing stuff out. She was a good friend to meet. So I just want to thank them. New business, for the first time in 23 years, I talked about the street parade. And there was an old crusty guy sitting in the back of a golf cart that said, pay your taxes. As though if we don't pay our taxes, the parade doesn't come down there. So I just want to say, if he's here tonight or listening, shut the front door. Garbage credit. I heard some discussion about some garbage costs. Well, I heard it was about $600 a truckload to haul our debris out, and that's fair. I paid $14 privately, which took a load off the city, and a lot of residents did the same thing. I think we deserve some sort of credit, personally. Half of that, whatever, towards future loads. We helped the city, we paid for it ourselves. Did the city receive a substantial damage letter? I'm curious what their number is for any of our city. Okay. I'm hearing no. I'd like to know if we need a drywall permit and not putting up drywall. Why do I need a drywall permit? I'm not putting up drywall, okay? I don't think I need it. That's holding me up. I'm also told if I do my own permits, I've lived there 21 years in this house, that I can't sell or rent. It's kind of unfair. It's unconstitutional as far as I'm concerned. But so therefore, I want to pull a permit. The work is getting done by me and others who are very good, but we haven't done any rebuilding. It's been all demo. That's all I've done is make sure, when you take out 4 feet of drywall, you discover in a 60-year-old house, old termite damage. I found it. even though I have no live termites. So replacing the framing is not structural. So I'm doing stuff like that. I'm trying to mitigate the future loss and risk while waiting for this letter that you said a month ago we'd have at the end of the week. And here we got 5 lists of some people. And I know people that have been damaged, and I know people that have not been damaged. And to them, I say fight the good fight, whichever way you're going. We need an expediter in City Hall and to help these folks go forward in their lives and rebuild. And Bob has a good idea. I think licensed contractors that could help people expedite would be fantastic. Can I get 3 more minutes or another minute? Anybody willing to give me a minute? Okay, there's someone back there.
Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Gina Birchnall, 2215 First.
And do you yield your 3 minutes to Mr. Shapiro?
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you.
I'm not going to go 3 minutes. I'm almost done. But get some interns. Call the local colleges. Get some kids in here to help you guys. Come on. I'll be an intern, free, 20 hours. I'll dedicate to anybody. I want to learn the process and help these people. Because if I can help myself, I can help them. So take advantage of the talent that's here, please.
Thanks, Scott. Anybody else?
Oh, that was a good idea.
Hey, Arby.
Yeah, 5 came out today.
R.B. Johnson, 1206 Beach Trail. I wanted to mention a couple of things having to do with the beach recently since Hurricane Lane passed by. The first thing is that you may have noticed if you've been out on the beach recently that it's widened considerably for most of the beach. The length of the beach, except for the extreme north end, which is always narrow because of the lack of the beach widening up at Bella Shore. But the rest of the beach, 90% of it has widened considerably since Hurricane Lane passed by, and that's because there were huge amounts of sand that were contained up in the dunes that were taken out into the Gulf, out to the sandbars, and it's been coming back ever since. And that's nature's natural renourishment cycle that's been happening for the last X number of weeks. The other thing I wanted to mention was the fact that there's been a lot of contractors out on the beach moving sand around back and forth from pools and whatnot, and decks and everything like that, but they've also been rearranging the beach. And I just want to point out that the places where the sand has come up to the more or less to the top of the seawall, and they've left that in place and just graded it down, that's very smart. It's a great idea. It takes the seawalls out of the equation because seawalls are deflectors, they're not protectors on beaches. That's been known for decades now. They tend to do more damage than helping things, especially when you have large amounts of storm surge. Where the city has done at each of its accesses, just gently grading it off more or less from the top of the seawall in front of the county park, places like that, that's great. Other places where they carved it down, exposed their seawalls 3 or 4 feet, not so swift. That's just asking for more beach erosion in the future. This can all be read about in any number of books that are out there. But there's one right here that I provided tonight, a copy for each of the commissioners and one for the administration for the city manager. And it has a ton of information having to do with beach processes and dunes and how all this works, including the bad effects of seawalls and whatnot. So I just wanted to make certain that if the commissioners had any interest in informing themselves about this, they could have this book in their hands, and it's readily available.
What's it called?
It's called Living on the Edge of the Gulf, the West Florida and Alabama Coast, and it's published by Duke University Press. There's lots of other books out there, but this is a good compendium. It has a lot of information, covers a lot of territory. In conclusion, I'd just like to say, please don't listen to the counsels of ignorance or willful ignorance or natural-born imbecility, because they're out there. They're going to want to speak to you, and they're going to want to be heard. And it's always better to be well-informed, because there's a lot of information about this kind of stuff out there, and many books and many sources. And you can go to people like John Bishop, folks at USF. They can all inform you, and you don't have to hear me preach. So I hope you all have an opportunity at some point to come to this book. Thanks.
I appreciate it, Arby. Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak this evening?
I would, but I don't usually speak in public. I'm at 2013 Bayview Place, and I am
And your
not
name is?
Bonnie Pitlinsky. I'm joint owner with my sister, Joan Bennett. And I don't think your numbers represent the people who are having the most difficulty. If they had 12 inches, okay, automatically they're aside. If they were devastated, they're aside. Okay, what about the people that, I would really like to know a list of FEMA regulations specifically for Indian Rocks Beach. Specifically the FEMA ones that you say you look at and you compare. I would like a list of that because we're sort of working in the dark. I've had 3 contractors come, look around, but they have not come back with estimates, okay? So I just think there should be a different process. The county says they're waiting for a letter from you, okay, or from Hedges. They get that letter, then they're not going to have problems with permits. But I think it's too demanding. You're saying we all have to get contractors and they have to do all the work. Because how else, even if I look at a website. Also, you seem to mix up substantial and non-substantial categories. Okay, we are non-substantial. Pinellas County came from the outside, we had 20 inches, okay? So theoretically, to get permits, we need this letter. It seems this process at Indian Rocks Beach is holding up things. Once they get a letter from you, then we can get the permits. But you are demanding that we do have this list. Can't we just say, okay, we pull off how much is the 50%? Okay, that's how much we can spend. Then why can't I get just drywall and painting to start and get a permit for that? And then if you want to bank that towards the 50% that FEMA says you can't go over, then that would make it a lot easier for me. I could do it in increments that I could, take care of. But this is just overwhelming. I think it's more difficult than some of the other towns are going through. That's my only question. So, do you have a list of FEMA regulations specifically for IRB?
Bonnie?
Yeah?
I'm sorry, your 3 minutes is up.
What?
Your 3 minutes is up.
Oh, okay.
I can't answer.
Does anybody else have a comment or question?
John Thayer, 1819 Bay Boulevard, and I wasn't going to talk tonight, but I don't think we've hammered enough on this SDI letter. All right, I understand from hearing there's a fifth list out, which I didn't see this morning first thing when I looked, but apparently there is, but I hear there's not too many names on it. It took about 3 weeks since before Thanksgiving, and we got 19 names on list 4, all right? There's probably, 250 names on that list so far among those 5 lists, with 3,200 properties in Indian Rocks Beach. At this rate, it's going to be 10 or 12 months before our name might show up. And we are sitting there, we're living in trailers. I know people are living in boats. I'm in a 1-room, 1-bath apartment that, so the houses are unlivable and we can't fix them. So I don't know what this SDI process is, but it doesn't seem to be working, and it doesn't, this could take forever. What are we supposed to do? And I just don't understand what we're supposed to do. And now they want pictures. My insurance company, my bank asked me for pictures to cash my insurance check. I almost went out to the Gulf and took a picture of the water, because 40,000 residents in Pinellas County got the same issue on the beaches. It's 3 feet of water. Not a whole lot of pictures required here. They know what the issue is. You can look at the front door and see the level on every house in Pinellas Park, in Pinellas County, you know, or Indian Rock. The dirty mark's still on mine. You can't live in the house, have no idea when we're ever going to see this level. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
We just heard that there is no requirement about pictures before. Not everybody has pictures before. So what would happen to people who are in the process of approval with the IRB and don't have those pictures? Will those people get back the requirements again and request for pictures? What about the people who already got approval without pictures? So I'm not sure how FEMA or county impose changes in the approval process just during the process. Either it's a process defined at the beginning and we follow it, or nothing else. So my speech and my question is, what would happen to pre-approval applications which are in the process right now? Will they come back to us asking for pictures before, or they will be finished and maybe new applications will be considered with the requirement for pictures? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm closing the public comment and moving on to the report.
Mayor, we'll be happy to address.
You want to do that?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sure.
Great.
Good comments, appreciate all that. As far as people doing work without a permit, the Pinellas County Building Department is the city's building department. And when we receive a complaint about work being done without a permit, one of our code folks goes out, documents work that's going on, takes photographs of trucks, equipment, tag numbers, and all that is sent to the Pinellas County Building Department. The city, since the county is our designated building department, our two code people that have to work with me, they don't have the authority to issue a stop work order because they're not a building official. So there's a portal that our code enforcement department goes to where they log on and they can upload pictures, they can upload whatever, so that's actively.
Can I ask a quick question, Greg?
Actively being that, I'd like to finish, please. The letter that was mentioned earlier, that was mainly driven by the experience of other cities to the south of us that have experienced hurricanes 2 or 3 years ago. It was at Fort Myers Beach or was it Sanibel?
Fort Myers Beach.
Yeah, Fort Myers Beach did not document clearly to the public the importance of obtaining permits. And as a result, Fort Myers Beach has been put on probation and likely to lose their flood insurance because they did not document it. Plus, there's a lot of good information on the website. We thought it was a good idea to summarize the 3 primary options that people have to pursue permits. So that's the primary reasons why that letter was done. And the reality of it is that if property owners do work without a permit, in some form it's liable to catch up with you. And the way it's going to catch up with you is if you have flood insurance, when you experienced the storm surge and your insurance company came out, the adjuster came out, they took pictures, they looked at your information. After you finish all that work, primarily your insurance company is going to want to see permits that you pulled to put all your stuff back in. That's the first thing. And as far as vacation rentals, there's a vacation rental process that we have. There's not a lot of that going on right now because there's not a lot of vacation rental properties operating. But there's an annual inspection process that we go through. And when our inspectors go through the annual inspection process, we know generally what the flood levels were in town, and there'll be questions raised about new kitchen cabinets and those kind of things. So I just wanted to address that. As far as the contractors list, I would suggest that you go to the Pinellas County Construction Board website. Great comment about earlier about contractors. The county is not going to hand out a list of contractors, but what you can do is go to this website, or if you invite a contractor in your house to help you with estimates, the documentation that was mentioned earlier, you just need to make sure that they're licensed with Pinellas County. And you can also go to the Pinellas website of the county and look up the name of the contractor to ensure that they're a licensed contractor. If they're not licensed with Pinellas County, they're operating illegally. We've had a number of sheriffs arrested. I think the last time I looked at that number, I think 35 to 40 individuals that were not licensed doing work in Pinellas County. And as far as information to the public, between the websites, the fine work that Civil Service doing, and I mentioned this earlier, but may have been missed. We have 4 IRB team members that operate the front trailer, and they're spending their time every day responding to questions and walking people through the 4 forms that have to be filled out. So we have the staff and the information to provide to the public. And I will tell you, I asked today, kind of what the day-to-day volume is up in trailer number 1. And, there's still a good bit of back and forth, a lot of good information being handled, but that's, the traffic there has dropped off a good bit. I would encourage, as I did at the beginning of this meeting, that we have 4 full-time city employees that are spending the majority of their time sitting and talking to the process. And in addition, on the back to the website, there's direct links to email addresses where you get the pre-approval started for the different, depending on what category you're in. You send that to, and Craig and his team have people that are doing nothing but responding to questions and answering questions about forms and what's required. The picture thing that came up tonight is interesting. I know there was a meeting this afternoon with FEMA. I was involved in some other meetings dealing with the $3 million worth of damage that we have at the city building. And that's something I'm going to inquire about myself because I agree the logic of that. I'm not really following that. I guess they're just assuming that everybody will just blatantly have pictures of all their stuff. But I'm gonna seek that out and see what I can look into that. And I would defer now to Craig or Petty, and y'all can answer those.
Apologies, the other one. I think I got D. Okay, all right, I'm here now. All right, so one item, and I think it was just caught in a shuffle there, but we'll commit, and we're providing updates. I think it's twice a week to the city. I gotta be honest, one is more useful than the other because we get 3 packages a week of these SD letters. Please don't wait on your SD letter. If I can stress one thing, and that was, this ties into the later is, it sounded negative. It was just, no matter what the county is requiring, these 4 forms. If you have the SD letter, 4 forms. If you're under 12 inches, 4 forms. If you want a reevaluation, still 4 forms. So what we can stress to you the most is please get those together. Please get the 4 forms together. Please. So it's and so in assistance, the most commonly used estimating software is RS Means. I'm not going to plug any other softwares. That's just the most common.
What is it called?
RS Means. I'm not saying it's free, but it's available. We have to add it as part of our review process back and forth. So it's the other thing you can do is if it's fairly common things, you can take a look at costs at, I'll say Lowe's, and then tack on some estimated hours that you believe it would take to put in, and then put an hourly wage. We're going to review all of these costs So as long as you have something there, we can't fill out your forms for you. We're just not allowed to do that, but we can provide some feedback if you give us a really good start. You know, if you've got a bunch of costs together, we'll tell you which ones don't look quite right, but if it all overall adds up pretty close, we're going to try to move this forward. We're trying to get it within 10, 20%, because we do understand some people are doing this work themselves. And that's, we are absolutely trying to be proactive, and that's why there's 51 applications that are out there in some status. We have a massive database that we're tracking with a map, so we can see where they are and what the status is. So there was another, as Greg mentioned, we are reporting, please report any information about unlicensed contractors, because the city eventually will get audited and we all pay for it. That's the truth. If you see it, report it, because eventually it'll come back, and the FEMA has promised that they will do an audit on the city at some date uncertain after all these improvements have been made. And they will be checking certain ones just to see if things were really, was the permit filed, and was the permit filed for what was done? Was the improvement far greater than what was permitted? And that's really what they're looking for. So the other thing is what needs to be permitted. And I know there's been a lot of debate. So conceptually, that was a redirection we got today. It used to be certain things the county did not require a permit. Because you are in a special flood zone, everything has to be permitted. Absolutely everything. When I say everything, painting the wall, you have to file it. And I'm not saying that's right. That's what FEMA says has to be permitted. So I want to convey accuracy. So it's, and I know that, so there was also, let me see if I can get there. There was a question on what are the regulations? So the regulations state that the total improvements, and it's generally then accepted as for an event. So if you had, and we say improvements or damage, right? And so the damage, the cost to restore it back cannot be greater than 50%, and it's based on code. Everyone has to pass code. It's either 49 or 50%. You guys are 50%. That's the city of Indian Rocks Beach. And generally accepted rates, not what it costs for you to do it if you're doing it personally, but what it would cost for a contractor to do it at accepted rates. That's not to say at the potentially inflated rates that might exist right now, because we know to some degree they're inflated because supply and demand. There's only so many contractors, and that's why we can't plug any specific contractors. As Greg mentioned, we're just not allowed to do that. You can look through the list of accepted or contractors who have licenses, and that I would absolutely encourage you to do that. You can look through, I think, Department of Business and Professional Resources. You can look up licensed contractors, look up who does that, whether it's electrical or plumbing. I would definitely advise that. You can look specific to a city or a county or however you want to look, but there are some tools for that. Let me see. So, and it's not functional. So, let me see. So, on the SD letters, yeah, we fully agree. Please don't wait on them. We've gotten 5 packages. Each of these packages have hundreds of records, but it boils down to, I believe, 197 total that have been determined out of 3,200, right? It's coming slowly. We know that they reportedly have 384 that are done, but there's the staff to get it QC'd and through is taking too long. Please get your permit packages in. We're ready. We have a team ready to move them forward. I know it is challenging having some of the picks. Yes, will we ask for prior picks? Why do you have to have them? They want to know what materials were there. So the point of this is, if you're putting, and this is the irony, if you're restoring back with a lower grade, that's not allowed, because then that's basically, because the reason is you were damaged greater than what you're putting back in, if that makes sense. That's why they're asking for pictures. So if you had solid wood, your solid wood was damaged, but you put in particle board, you're still going to get graded as if you got the solid wood damaged. That's how they're going to weight it. So that's what I'm trying to provide, is hopefully a little bit of clarity of what's required for overall estimates and costs. Everything that has to be done to get it back to the status it was prior. You can't phase it. You can't say, I want to just do drywall and electrical and maybe some paint. They do not allow that. And in fact, they're going to be flagging all of these and looking at them to make sure, like, if another application comes in 6 months or 8 months later to do the rest of it, and it trips it over 50%, that's a huge risk, right? So if you already put in 100,000 to bring it back, and you thought, well, I put in another 40, that would trip me over it, but maybe they won't know about it. I assure you, they will. The county will know. So it's, and then by result of the county knowing, will know, it will come back to the city, and then we'll have to go through the process again, because it's really sad. It just becomes a lot of wasted money then at that point. And the point of this is, because of, I think it's 1998 roughly, that's when all of the levels and elevations were set, and you had not just the wind loads, but the flood elevation set. And so that's why, to build back and harden against storms, that's the reason they're there. So hopefully that's useful.
I'll address one more thing that was brought up by one of the earlier speakers, was reference to City Hall. Everything that is done, that we did at City Hall is above board. We're required to abide by the same rules as everybody else. We're waiting like everybody else for the substantial damage, but what we are doing, and this is what Craig was talking about, is we're getting all our documents together. Because, you know, Dan mentioned it earlier, you know, we're dealing with just like folks that have private property. We're dealing with different insurance companies, and different people pay different things. But we'll go through the same process that everybody else has to go. I would just tell the commission that based on if you go pull up, you put the address and come to Ellis County Tax Assessor website. For City Hall, you can see what the value of that building, that it does not include the warehouse behind the building. It's $900 and something thousand, $976. And based on the real contractor prices that we've gotten, we're under that. So we should be in good shape. But we're going to go through the same process as everybody else. You know, there's obviously a need to restore the seat of government for our small town as soon as we can, but we have to do the same thing. And contractors that we'll use, you know, we'll use the general contractor, we'll have subs. The general contractor and the subs, they have to comply with all the regulations like everybody else. So I do want to address that, because I didn't want for whatever reason it was put out there that somehow we could do something different. We cannot, because we're subject to the same penalties and issues that private property owners are. We don't do this right. So while we do everything else, we do this right.
Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify, not add anything, if that's possible.
All right.
As I heard it, perhaps I didn't clarify what I was trying to say about an approved contractor. We know we can go find the list of approved contractors. Is there a way to get the county to create a list of approved contractors who sign your form, which then authorizes you to jump through all this pre-approval and through the county stuff? That's what I'm trying to get at. Can they set up a list of contractors to let us basically verify we're FEMA compliant with one-stop shopping, not which contractor's authorized to do electrical work, if that makes sense what I just tried to clarify. If you had that list, sorry,
I
take away
don't
your
think
word.
the county's gonna back, they're not gonna get,
Well, they may not,
hang
but
their hat on a
we,
list of contractors, and then you're unhappy, and then they're gonna.
No,
blame
no,
you.
no.
He's not saying that they are going to do any work. They are just going
To
to, sort of like
certify-
an inspector,
yes.
say what has to be done and how much it will cost.
If I could, again, I'm just trying to clarify it. For example, you get a contract, the county says, if this contractor comes licensed in Pinellas County with the correct GC or whatever they want, home inspector, comes in, and they, at the owner's expense, generate a report that says the damage was 6 inches below the outlets, the repair cost will be $15,000. That's not coming from a person, that's coming from a licensed contractor. So if you had that sort of contractor list, that would, I'm sorry, Ms. Harmon, it would take away her work, but it would help her. It would help them a lot. It would help the county a lot. So that, anyway, you see what I'm trying to say, is they just need a list of people that they accept as telling the truth, instead of all of us.
And they don't necessarily have to do the work.
No, they don't have to do the work.
Yes,
They're just like a home inspector when you buy the house.
yes, they just know the prices and.
Okay.
Well, anyway, yeah, I understand, thank you.
But yeah, if I understand that right, Craig, what everybody needs to do is fill out their 4 forms and send it to the Hurricane Restoration pre-approval at irbcity.com. That's how you're gonna get the ball rolling.
No, I understand, but the boss, I understand.
Yeah, that's correct, Mayor, and it's also to provide, if you have 3, great, but definitely photos of the damage so we can figure out that those costs are correct.
Yes.
That's why there's no photos, is to verify the materials make sense. And then if you give, I will say this, if you give some information on what's being repaired, what we're looking at is the FEMA damage tool. So hopefully this back and forth helps a little bit, but we're looking at the FEMA damage tool to make sure you guys looked at everything. And we will have back and forth asking you for, let's say, more information. And then we'll plug in, if you say it's, you know, I don't want to say the wrong number of square feet, but let's say 4,000 square feet of drywall, right? And we'll look at it and go, yeah, I guess that makes sense. And then if you have missing or really low cost for install, we'll take a look at that and just get that feedback. Hey, install should be this much per square foot. And because that's what it's based on. It's not necessarily based on an hourly rate or anything like that. It's based on a square foot. Everything's loaded in the RS means. So that's kind of the feedback we give. And then we find out if you're close. And if you have damage to your plumbing, if you have damage to this, that. But the post will be, I will say, if you didn't fix anything, and they look at the end of it and go, well, you left this, you left this, you left this, that's where it can come back, right? Like if you didn't fix
And are you guys helping people fill out their forms?
when it's missing, yeah, we're definitely giving the feedback.
Okay.
Yes.
And Greg, are we helping people fill out their forms? So there is help out there. If you want to go to the city, and Mike and Frank will help you fill out your forms.
I think should be in the office.
They are.
Sometimes. They're in Lakewood.
No, in our city hall.
No, they are not in our city.
No, but Mike and Frank can help you as well.
I've been there.
And they didn't help you?
They've handed out forms.
Try again.
We were told to call some Kim, and we don't know Kim. That's when we were referred to.
Find out about the process, call a neighbor, and she called as well, tested a neighbor, and she asked.
Ma'am, before you leave tonight, you'll leave your name and number. I'll make sure somebody comes. Okay?
Thank you.
But could they be in the IRB office?
Just make sure somebody's local to help you.
Okay, but they are the floodgate. They are the people.
They'll ultimately review your documents, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they will.
And what is the FEMA damage tool? Can anybody look at that?
Yes.
Just you?
That's the engine behind the SDE. So the substantial damage evaluation or estimation, it's based on an inundation level that they reviewed, and they calculate the percentage that every item then in your structure is damaged. So that's what the tool is based on. Again, there's some built-in error, because if you had 20 inches outside but only 7 inside, or you had 37 outside but maybe it was all inside, that maybe it under or overestimates on certain structures.
But who can, only you can look at this, right?
It's not completed, and this is where so only 197 of the 3,200 are done, but we have early estimation on the other structures. Every single structure has been looked at. We can't give you a percentage until it's been reviewed, otherwise it would be completely off.
It's really for internal use.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to the report of the city attorney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As far as the report, earlier in the evening, the manager referenced some events in another community. I think it just warrants reading, because there's been, just some misunderstanding in terms of the collective effect here. And so I'm just briefly going to read from a news blurb from on or about November 21st or 22nd. Fort Myers Beach residents lose FEMA flood insurance discounts, town on probation. The FEMA has placed the town of Fort Myers Beach on probation from the National Flood Insurance Program. Quote, really, really unfair, extremely unfair. We should all be treated equal, end quote, said Fort Myers Beach resident Kevin Mahoney. Officials said FEMA will also retrograde the town's community rating system classification, according to a news release from the town of Fort Myers Beach. With Fort Myers Beach's community rating being retrograded, discounts on NFIP premiums that allowed residents to save up to 25% were removed. Quote, for somebody who's struggling to pay all of their bills and then they get hit with another 25%, how is that fair, end quote, Mahoney said. Fort Myers Beach officials said they are working with FEMA to regain benefits from the program. According to the news release, Fort Myers Beach received notice from FEMA about the possible retrograde in March 2024. Officials said they worked for months to submit the documents requested by FEMA. The town submitted a corrective action plan before the November 18th deadline, according to the release. Quote, I'm disappointed that FEMA has made the decision to put the town on probation. Town staff is committed to following our FEMA-approved plan and will continue to collaborate with FEMA and FDEM to regain our NFIP discount and CRS classification, end quote. And Andrew Hyatt, town manager of Fort Myers Beach, said via news release. FEMA also notified Lee County that unincorporated Lee County residents with policies issued under the NFIP will maintain the discount rate of 25%. And that was all in the wake of the September 26, 2022 impact of Hurricane Ian. And a lot when they talk about the town of Fort Myers Beach struggling to get all the documentation that had been asked about it retroactively, much of what was said was, we FEMA have photographs of all this drywall in your streets and all these building materials and being hauled away, but there's no evidence of permits, there's no evidence of code enforcement for the failure to secure permits, so who knows what untold amounts of work have been done in this floodplain community, was FEMA's position. And so the town was left retroactively scrambling, commencing code enforcement, and the like. And so that has informed a lot, and that process, as it alludes to, sort of began with some notice in March 24, but it created a scramble in Lee and Collier County beginning last spring, or earlier this spring, trying to address those concerns of communities going back and trying to get all these permits done, et cetera, et cetera. It also has consequently informed how Pinellas County and Pinellas County jurisdictions have been trying to approach this to avoid similar penalties and impacts happening here. And that is part of that collective security, understanding some members of the public may feel, I don't want FEMA's discount, I'm not even sure the discount's real, I don't need the flood insurance. It's still the collective security that is at stake. And that is why the town, or rather the city here, who under Florida's Constitution has a duty to uphold the public trust, and that doesn't just mean trust in terms of belief, faith, and confidence, but the public trust in terms of as a trustee of your benefits and the benefit for the greatest good, and that's what your city manager, floodplain administrator, public works director, finance director, this whole team is trying to serve. It may not always happen in a way that is pleasant, enjoyable. Often it's frustrating, confusing, admittedly. Often it's frustrating and confusing from our end as well. But that's the kind of data points that are informing the process that's being experienced here. And that was, when that happened in Lee County, that really did send shockwaves in the legal and local government community, because this was the first where they were being told, hey, where's your code enforcement, where's your permitting, where's every step of this? To the question of people who have done unpermitted work, the manager has spoken to that, but also there may be exposure to code enforcement prosecutions down the road, should those be able to be proven up, et cetera, et cetera. And so, the letters that may sound threatening or firm is intended to say very clearly, so we do not have this situation where 10 months from now people are saying, my city never told me. Now we all know, and it's not a happy truth, but it is a truth nonetheless. And so that's one of the things we're trying to address here to mitigate risk for all of us in this process. And so that's what I'll say to that. That said, on other issues, the short-term rental litigation persists. We have a shade meeting tomorrow that is a closed session of the commission to discuss the current posture of those cases. Because I just said closed door meeting, I want to make very clear that is pursuant to Florida Statute 286-011 sub 8 that says we can meet privately at my request, which I have already requested at the last meeting, to discuss settlement and litigation strategy as it relates to costs and expenditures. That's all we can discuss. Any suggested plan, proposal for the resolution of litigation will come before this commission in a public hearing. Nothing will be done unofficially off the books. It's the process. And that process is set forth in Florida statutes when there's pending litigation, which we've had. That said, otherwise, apologies, continue to work with the city manager and staff on all the daily issues that come with running and continuing to rebuild your community. We thank you, truly, as frustrating as it is to sit here on a Tuesday night. As I just said a moment ago, this is the process. Thank you for being a part of the process. Thank you for helping us to improve. Anything we can do better. And so we welcome that input, but we are working through it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Randy. Rick, you have a report this evening?
I do. Several things just to mention, just some updates. The resident property owner parking decals for the next two-year cycles, we will start issuing those beginning on Monday, January the 6th, in that famous front trailer in City Hall. We received, I guess about 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, a new solid waste packer truck, a new garbage truck that we ordered. We actually ordered that in 2022. That's backlog of equipment. We'll put it in service next week. We're wrapping up the rebuilding of the Nature Preserve Boardwalk. The Nature Preserve was built in the year 2000. We expect to have it open the boardwalk back up in January. We'll plan a little ribbon cutting for that when we do that. We've replaced the entire structure with composite material. I always forget that. Composite material that'll last much longer than the original structure. The total cost, we started the project last year, and then we continued on with the money in this year's budget to rebuild that. Boardwalk is $1.2 million, and that'll be finished up by the end of the month. We had the Christmas tree lighting. The city celebrated the holiday season with the lighting of the new Christmas tree. One of the things we lost in the storm surge was all our decorations, Christmas tree. We replaced that. That'll be paid for by insurance money. I want to thank A2K, the Art Center, Krabby Bills, DJ Mark Ralston, and most, as important, but to me, more important, the City of Indian Rocks Beach team members that climb, work together, and put that tree together. One thing I want to mention, there's a gentleman named Captain Mike Liner that's been my liaison with the sheriff's office for over a decade. He's retiring and will be retiring in January. And I just found out about it last week, and at some upcoming meeting, unless the commission, I'm sure does not object, I'm going to invite him to a meeting and get him. He's been I had daily interaction with the sheriff's office, not so much with the fire department, but every day with the sheriff's office and everything. And Captain Liner has been nothing but a professional and a person that we can rely on. He's going to be missed. The Christmas boat parade is December the 21st, beginning at the Holiday Inn. We're going to, format for that's going to be a little different. We usually have registered and judge, different categories for both. Due to everything that's going on with the city, we're going to have the same start time at the Holiday Inn. We're inviting the public, particularly RV residents that want to decorate and come out just to meet at the Holiday Inn between 6 and 6:30. Andy B., who's a local resident, has led the parade for a number of years, and he'll lead the parade. So it may look a little different next year, and this year and the next year, we'll get back to the regular format. We started 4 or 5 years back with the installation of public art, where we received our, back between storm number 1 and storm number 2, we had a delivery truck that brought our 6th public art piece, and that actually was paid for by IRB Home. We'll be working in January to install that. That's going to be installed near Gulf Boulevard in the 26th Avenue. And the last thing I would say, and I mentioned this before in previous meetings, but I just think it's important to put this in perspective, is that I had the pleasure of working with 25 people. 11 people worked in City Hall, and the balance is in solid waste and public works. So I had 11 people that worked in City Hall. 5 people in City Hall lost everything that they had. And 2 of the 4 people that are in that front row that we talked about several times lost everything they had. So if there's any group of people that realize the impact of the storm surge, and want to get things back to normal, is the 5 people that work at City Hall that lost everything, and we're committed to that. And the last thing I'll say about my experience with these hurricanes, and I think I mentioned before, my wife and I were talking about this. I think this is my 15th hurricane to deal with. Is FEMA, and I'll just say this as politely as I can, is an ever-moving target. Every hurricane that I've ever dealt with, the rules always change. They can continually change. And there needs to be a mass reorganization of FEMA, where there's rules put in place for people that do my type work, public works directors, elected officials across the country, that we can predict what the rules are going to be. And secondly, going forward, there needs to be a better program that comes out of Pinellas County for how this is dealt with. Recognizing this is people use different ways to explain this, probably hopefully once in a lifetime situation, or at least once in a 100-year storm. There's some lessons learned that I think will have to be addressed at a future date. This is not the proper time to address it now, because we need to get through it. But I don't want to, as a city manager, I don't want to act like everything's great and working well. We're working with the rules that are ever changing with the FEMA and others. And there'll be an appropriate time to look at that and try to do what we can in our small town to correct those. And this is for the public's information. There's 7 cities out of the 24 in Pinellas County that have contracts with Pinellas County for building department. And that's the things that we'll look at in the future. I can tell you, I don't regret it at all, the city moving several years ago from our operation to the county. when we were in the building department of the business, we had one building official and a secretary. If we were in that same operation, we would have the same circumstances or worse that we have right now. But I do, want to acknowledge that there's a lot of things that need to be addressed, and we will address them. But this is not the time to do that, but we will do that. And I'll be happy to answer any questions the commission has.
Does anyone have any questions of Greg? So you're suggesting that we don't like ruffle the waters or upset the apple cart at this point?
Yeah, we're under a contractual arrangement
Yeah.
with different folks. And when you're in the middle of a hurricane recovery, where people can invoke contracts and give notice and say, well, fine, if you don't need us, do your own thing, this is not the time. This is not the time to do it. And I'm not saying that I will at some point recommend that we go back to this building department business. I don't think it's, for our size town, I don't think that's a good idea. And I think some of the smaller towns are realizing that. There's just other public and private options that we can look at in the future where we could be postured in a position where we might deal with things a little better. Recognizing that every storm, whether it's a tropical storm or a hurricane, is different. It just depends on what you're dealing with. I mean, God help us, if you got that kind of storm coming in and you're high tide, and every situation is different. But there'll be the time to look at arrangements, contracts, assistance, how we go about that. But we'll get to that.
Okay, thank you. The city commission, Hope, do you have anything this evening?
I guess I could just let you guys know about a local event that we have going on to support small businesses. The Plaza at 14th Avenue, where Creepers is located, in Ivy Creamery. We're going to do a beach cleanup on Saturday, and we are also going to have supporting local small businesses who lost a lot, and small vendors. We're going to be setting them up for free in the plaza, just kind of trying to have a nice little holiday event there. I was also involved in my first official Jolly Trolley situation. Sorry we didn't get to see everybody, but we did see a lot of people, and I thought that was a really nice, normal, traditional thing to kind of, brighten everybody's spirits, as well as the tree lighting. So look forward to the boat parade, and I'm officially running for my seat, so that's all I have.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
I had the pleasure last week of attending the legislative conference for Florida League of Cities, and I think it's very important for us as a small town to be able to have those opportunities to communicate with others. Came back with some ideas because one of the sessions was on how to survive a disaster. And so some of the people from other cities who have been through it, good ideas that I'll share with Greg. Looking forward to seeing what happens with my committee's focus this year is on affordable housing, which I think we all know that would be nice to have for some of our service industry people here. So I will be anxiously awaiting the next step, and we will be doing some things in Tallahassee when the session is in place.
Thank you. Jude? Nothing from you, John?
I also was on Christmas trolley for the first time, and the suggestion is if you want some candy, make sure you do it at the very beginning when the round starts. I had some very upset kids on my street because they were counting on candy, which is one of the last things. Also, we're going to be having a Christmas party over at our house. We're going to be taking donations for Indian Rock Beach for any people that are in assistance. I filled out the application for my seat, which is due in March. I'll be running in March also. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I just want everybody to be aware that my door is open. I'll talk on the phone. I'll talk to you in person. Whatever I can do to help you get your approval, I'm your gal. So if you want my phone number, come up and get it from me before you leave tonight. I wanna just be accessible, because I think all the information that everybody's frustrated about is readily accessible. It's just knowing where to find it. Thank you. Are there any additions or deletions? No. Okay. Then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Ray, would you read, please?
Happily, Madam Mayor, there are 4 items on the consent agenda. Item A, approval of the November 12, 2024 regular city commission meeting minutes. Item B, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for audit services with Forbes Mazars LLP for fiscal years 2024 through 2027. Item C, resolution 2024-13, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, adopting the National Institute of Standards and Technology Cybersecurity Framework, authorizing the city manager designee to adopt policies and procedures as necessary to implement the framework and comply with section 282.38185 Florida statutes, authorizing the city manager designee to affirm compliance with section 282.38185 Florida statutes and providing an effective date. And item D, resolution 2024-14, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, making findings, approving and ratifying all emergency declarations and extensions thereof, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. These are all the items on the consent agenda, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda.
Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have a public hearing. Brady, would you read, please?
Happily, Madam Mayor, we are now on item 6A of the agenda. This is ABT 23-2024, quasi-judicial proceeding for 1401 Gulf Boulevard, Indian Rocks Cafe, Deli and Market, considering a 2 COP alcoholic beverage use designation, beer wine by the drink or in sealed containers for consumption on or off premises where sold. Indian Rocks Cafe, Deli and Market, located at 1401 Gulf Boulevard, Suite 5, 6, and 7, Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, legally described as Indian Beach, re-revised, Block 29, Lots 1, 2, and 3. As we are handling this as a quasi-judicial proceeding, it is my duty to remind you that in a quasi-judicial proceeding, you are not making the law, you are applying the established law in your code to the competent substantial evidence presented to you this evening. With that, has any member of this commission had any ex parte communications with the applicant or their agent, meaning have you talked to them about this application in advance of this hearing? All having responded in the negative, has any person, as a member of this commission, done a site visit for the limited purpose of evaluating the application for you? I'm not asking if you're aware of the address as a member of the community, but rather if you've gone there to do particular fact-finding in connection with this application.
No.
Hearing none, Madam Clerk, I believe you're presenting on this, is that correct?
Sure.
So this is a alcohol beverage use designation governed by Chapter 6 alcohol beverages. All alcohol beverage licenses are under the control of the State of Florida Division of Alcohol Beverages and Tobacco. However, municipalities have the right to enact ordinances regulating the hours of business and location of place of business and prescribing sanitary regulations thereof any license under the state beverage law within the county or corporate limits of such municipality. On November 14, 2024, Joanne Denman Hansen submitted a 2-pop alcohol beverage designation application. It's a beer wine by drink in sealed containers for consumption on or off the premises where sold for the establishment Indian Rocks Cafe, Deli and Market, located at 1401 Gulf Boulevard, Suite 5, 6, and 7, Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, legally described as Indian Rocks Beach, revised Block 29, Lots 1, 2, and 3. Code Section 6-32, alcohol beverage use designations are approved for a specific property location and a specific application. Any change in ownership of the establishment will require filing a new application and approval by the State Commission. Indian Rocks Cafe, Deli and Market is located at 1401 Gulf Boulevard in B Business District. The surrounding zoning is B Business to the north and south, R2 medium density multifamily zoning district to the east, and CT commercial tours on the west side of Gulf Boulevard. Indian Rocks Cafe, Deli and Market is located in the Sunrise Gallery Shopping Center at 1401 Bell Boulevard. After review of the application by the planning consultant, it was determined that the alcohol beverage application for Indian Rocks Cafe Deli is in compliance with Chapter 6, Alcoholic Beverages, Chapter 110, zoning, and parking is shared with other tenants in this commercial plaza. The Pinellas County Sheriff's Office reviewed its files for Joanne Denman Hansen and determined there are no responsive public records, no criminal records were conducted by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, other states, or the FBI. Section 6.33 or 6-33, authority of city commission to designate locations, empowers the city commission to designate the location and classification and to place reasonable restrictions which are deemed appropriate, such as repeated or intermittent nuances, activity and/or unlawful noise levels originating from the establishment of the parking area may result in the revocation of the alcohol beverage designation. We did a public notification. The notice was mailed by first-class mail to all the property owners within 150 feet of any direction of the subject property, and it was posted on the property on November 25th, 2024, per Code Section 2-149. A legal notice was published in the November 24th, 2024 edition of the St. Pete Times section of the Tampa Bay Times for a public hearing that has been scheduled on December 10th, 2024 for this ABT case number 23-2024. That is the presentation.
And the summary of the clerk's presentation, the business at issue already has a license to consult to new owners, and your code requires a change in ownership, requires a new application approval by the commission. So that's why we're here. Are there any questions for staff at this time based on the presentation made? Seeing none from the commission, so your guys show here. Is the applicant or their agent present today? Wish to make a presentation? Before, please. Can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you. If you could just state your name, address, and whatever information you wish for the commission to consider for your application.
My permanent home address or the home address I'm staying here?
Whichever address you wish to give, ma'am.
I'm Joanne Denman Hansen. I am hyphenated. Long story. My permanent address is 30342 Hunsmont Drive in Mount Plymouth, Florida, which is just north of Orlando. But I am living here right now. For now, my husband is still home with our dog and working his real job. My family's been coming here for 20 years for vacation, and I came here today. That Gene and Jeff, they own the cafe, and kind of like, hey, if you want to sell, I want to buy, and here I am. So we actually started this before the lien came through, and I'm still here. That no hurricane's going to scare me off. My husband and I are both born Floridians, so we were both born and raised here. So no hurricane's going to scare me away. Did anybody have any questions for me?
Are there any questions? Are there any questions for the applicant?
I have two questions.
Seeing none, Mayor, at this time we would open it to public comment if there's any comment on the application at this time.
Does anyone have any comments about Joanne having her? Yes.
Sir, can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
So help me God. How can you not admire somebody that fulfills a contract and agreement after a devastating hurricane wipes out the city? She wants to be here. And we want her to be here, and I've spoken in favor of the Grove and any other restaurant or business that wants to invest in us. So we need her to succeed.
Thank you, and for the record, that was Mr. Shapiro. Is there any other public comment on this application? Seeing none, does the staff have anything else it wishes to add on this?
No.
All right. I know it's been a long time since you spoke, ma'am, but you get the final word on your application. Anything else you wish to add?
Thank you.
Thanks. So at this point, we would need a motion, and I believe staff has given some language on the suggested motion that should be considered on this application.
I'll make a motion, a move to approve a request for an alcoholic beverage use designation 2COP, beer, wine by the drinker in sealed containers for consumption on or off premises where said, for Indian Rocks Cafe Cafe, Deli, and Market located at 1401 Gulf Boulevard, Suite 5, 6, and 7, Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, and legally described as Indian Beach Revised. Lot 29, lots 1, 2, and 3, with the following stipulation. Repeated or intermittent nuisance activity and/or unlawful noise levels originating from the establishment or the parking area may result in the revocation of the alcoholic beverage designation.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Can we take a roll call vote? I'm sorry to.
Yes.
That guy.
Cody, Cody?
Commissioner Bigelow?
I approve.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Wind?
Yes,
Yes. Vice Mayor Commissioner Wilson?
Approved.
Mayor Commissioner Helserberg?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Application stands approved and you'll receive a report.
We'll move on to item 7, other legislative matters, which are none. We have no work session items, no other business. Can I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you for coming.